60 Minutes Rewind.
There is no word in the English language for a parent who has lost a child. Maybe it's an abyss that we can't bear to make real by giving it a name. Bereaved parents feel that life itself lacks definition. What could be next for them? What could be worthwhile? A little over 4 years ago, we met mothers and fathers who sent their first graders to school one bright morning and have endured the twilight ever since. When we returned to Newtown, Connecticut recently, we found families who will never move on, but are finding ways to move forward. Newtown looks as it did the day before that day. The name is long outdated. It was founded before the Revolution, its flagpole raised after the Civil War, and its town hall erected in the Great Depression. But for those who know only the name, the history of Newtown, Connecticut begins on December 14, 2012, when a mentally ill man murdered 20 first graders and 6 educators at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Anna Grace was the daughter of Nelba and Jimmy Green. Have you found people who don't know you after all these years expecting you to get over what happened?
You just took my breath away, because that happens a lot. And it is so incredibly painful. It's like losing her all over again.
There have been those that have said things like, so you guys are good now? Or I hope you've had some closure to your daughter's murder. In the back of my heart, and I know in Nelba's as well, it's like our family will never be intact again. Our daughter Anna was 6 years old.
It was in that town hall 4 months after the killing that we first met the Greens and 6 other Newtown families.
Every day I cry because I miss her so much.
This is Dylan.
There was Nicole Hockley.
I think the picture kind of sums him up perfectly.
And we lost our sweet little Daniel Barden.
Mark and Jackie Barden.
Daniel was a light of positive energy in our home.
Ben was 6 years old.
David and Francine Wheeler.
Ben was smart and funny.
And our house is very quiet.
David Wheeler filled that quiet with a shout to every parent.
I would like them to look in the mirror, and that's not a figure of speech, Scott. I mean, literally find a mirror in your house and look in it and look in your eyes and say, this will never happen to me. It's going to happen again. It is going to happen again. And every time, it's somebody else's school, it's somebody else's town, it's somebody else's community, until one day you wake up and it's not.
That week, several of the families convinced the Connecticut legislature to pass universal background checks and to limit the size of ammunition magazines. Then they marched on Washington to support a more modest proposal, just closing the loopholes so that all purchases require a background check.
I stand before you now and ask you to stand with me.
Polls showed most Americans stood with them, and so did the president.
Jesse was brutally murdered.
They needed 60 votes in the Senate.
The yeas are 54, the nays are 46.
But not even they could win a gunfight on Capitol Hill.
When it was clear that they'd lost, it was like all the air went out of your body in one quick swoosh, because that gut-wrenching defeat, how could this have just happened?
Wasn't there a sense after that vote of, okay, we tried, I'm going home?
Not for me.
Never. Why would we do that? That's not honoring our children.
No.
There's a saying, fall 9 times, get up 10. We'll just keep getting up.
So Nicole Hockley and Mark Barden founded Sandy Hook Promise to train teachers and students how to prevent violence. It was a revelation for Hockley after the FBI told the families that the gunman had been on a predictable path.
And I remember asking the question, well, if you know these things about shooters, if you know that these signs and signals are given off, how come we don't know? And the director said, we just don't have the resources to train everyone in the country. We train law enforcement, we train other people, but we can't do it out to the mass public. And for me, that was the moment that I said, well, if you can't, we can. Well, good morning, everyone.
Hockley spends half the year on the road visiting schools, telling teachers and students how to spot the signs of social isolation.
It's these tiny actions that we can each take that you all have the power to do that are going to change someone else's life.
One program called Start with Hello trains students to connect with their peers who are ignored or bullied.
So it means so much to us that you're here and that you're doing this.
Another is Say Something, which encourages kids to speak up.
Listen to the program.
Students are taught to watch for sudden changes in their classmates, a fascination with suicide or death or guns, changes in dress, or threats on social media. In 2015, Mark Barden trained students in Cincinnati, and shortly thereafter, a middle school student made a bomb threat.
And it was overheard by another student who had been trained in our Say Something program.
This 8th grade student said, I wouldn't have thought twice about what I saw in social media until I had your training, and I said, this is exactly what they're talking about. It gives me goosebumps just to think about it.
I know.
Sandy Hook Promise says it has trained more than 1 million students and teachers, but it's had more reach on the internet.
Hey, you must be bored.
This video, called Evan, shows 2 students making a connection, but harder to spot in the background is what's happening to a troubled young man.
So you like to write on desks?
Yeah, that's what I do.
If this program had been in place at Sandy Hook Elementary School the day before, do you think it...
You read my mind. Sandy Hook was preventable. And had someone been able to see those signs and signals that our shooter gave off throughout his life and connect those dots and make an intervention, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
The story will continue after this.
A parent who has lost a child has one fear left: the end of remembering. And so many of the families have created projects that introduce their child to new people. Ben Wheeler now lives in the work of Ben's Lighthouse. His mother, Francine, creates service projects for Newtown kids.
What a wonderful way to honor him and continue to be his parents.
Continue to be his parents.
Yeah. I can't live the rest of my life not talking about him. I mean, imagine you having a 6-year-old and then you don't anymore. Are you going to stop talking about them? The worst thing you can do to a grieving parent is not to mention the child. Then you're not acknowledging his existence. And so when people do acknowledge it, I'm so appreciative. I say, oh, thank you for, and even if I'm crying, they're like, I'm sorry I made you cry. I'm like, no, you didn't make me cry. You brought him back.
It's like having him back for a minute.
Yeah.
The Wheelers wanted another child, a sibling for their oldest. And almost 2 years after Ben was killed, Matthew Bennett Wheeler was born.
You try to make the world into the place you want it to be, and many times the only area that you have any control over is the square footage of your own house. And so you do what you can.
David Wheeler is a songwriter, and recently at a vigil against gun violence,
I know you'll leave.
Francine sang "Leave a Light On."
You know I'm gonna leave.
You know I will leave a light on. Because you always look for your home after this kind of craziness that happens to you. Where's your home? And he leaves that light on so that I can have a home in my heart for him.
At that vigil, we met Hannah Davino. Her sister Rachel was a therapist in Ben Wheeler's class.
She died standing her ground between evil and innocence.
Growing up, her big sister had been the strong one in a troubled home. And so Davino says she lives today in purgatory, not quite the present.
A lot of it is because I feel guilty for
being alive and happy when my sister's dead.
Rachel was your stability.
Yes, she was. She really was.
You know, I wonder when you hear of the next shooting, how does that affect you?
I go back to my day one. I go back to 12-14, not knowing where my sister was, looking for her. And you see people getting that reuniting hug, and that breaks my heart because I wish I got that hug. And then you see the people that are really distraught because they're in this club now.
Nicole, how would you describe the change in yourself?
You couldn't be any more different from the confident, optimistic, happy-go-lucky type person I was beforehand.
You have poured yourself into this so completely.
Yes.
Have you given yourself time to grieve?
No. No. I'm working on that right now. This is kind of my year that I'm feeling it's time, you know, to start finding myself again, but also to accept that no matter what I do, I can't get Dylan back.
Jimmy Green summons his daughter's memory through his music. His album about Anna Grace was nominated for 2 Grammys.
I do think this is how we reach kids. Like I said,
Nelba Marquez Green is a therapist, and she has started the Anna Grace Project to educate teachers about mental health. You mentioned your faith, and I wonder how your faith may have changed in all of this.
One of the most compelling sermons I've ever heard was given at my daughter's funeral. It was just a beautiful sermon. It talks about Jesus being with us in every season of our lives, including the winter, and that Anna's death would signify the beginning of a long and hard winter season. And that winter would be made better with faith and family and friends. And I still feel that way. I really do.
Is it springtime yet?
I can't imagine a day that it will be spring. The moment I'm reunited with her, I want to hear 2 things. I want to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And I want to hear, "Hi, Mom."
Sandy Hook Elementary School was demolished and rebuilt, much like the families themselves, changed, yet in the same place.